Hi everybody, it's Jay and I am back in the booth again with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new audiobook release here on Say with Jay. We spent the last couple of weeks in Cowboy Crossing, Missouri, but this week we are coming home to North Dakota for Jessie Gussman's 11th book in the Coming Home to North Dakota Western Sweet Romance series, Cowboy Whispering My Name. Now, we'll talk about the book in just a bit and have a live preview reading for you, but first there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. In last week's preview, we mentioned that we're going to be doing something a little different over the holidays. We're going to present one of Jessie's novellas in 4 weekly episodes, starting the Friday before Christmas. We'd like for you to help us pick which novella we do. You can go and vote and read about the 3 choices that you have in a few different places. First, you can actually click on this box right there and vote right here on Say with Jay. You can go to Jessie's Facebook reader chat group here, or you can vote through Jessie's newsletter, which you can subscribe to at jessiegussman.com. All right, please do that. We would love to hear your choice. Now, the next thing, if you've been watching these previews for the Coming Home to North Dakota Western Sweet Romance series, you know that Jessie has been including a dish or 2 within the framework of those stories, and I've been making them for you. We're going to do that again today in another segment of Cooking with Jay. Today's dish is pineapple brown sugar crockpot ham. It is a single dad's dream. Tell you why. Because it has 4 ingredients, including the ham. Secondly, it takes about 5 minutes tops to assemble. So let's get started. Now, as always, the ingredients for the dish are going to be listed in the description below, so you don't have to worry about capturing amounts and all that good stuff right now. You may have to hit show more or read more, whatever it says, to get that full description. To start with, you need a ham. No shock there. You do want it to be pre-cooked and spiral cut. It can be bone-in or boneless, whatever you prefer. And really, honestly, the size doesn't really matter. Just go wild to fit your crowd or your appetite or how much leftovers you'd like to have. You're going to need 3½ cups of brown sugar, light or dark, whatever you've got is fine. You're going to need 1/2 cup of raw honey. Finally, you're going to need 1 20-ounce can of pineapple. Tidbits or chunks is fine. It does need to be in juice, not syrup, and do not drain the juice. To start with, you're going to spread 2 cups of the brown sugar in the bottom of your crock pot. Next, you're going to place your ham on the brown sugar, and you want to spread the pieces apart, kind of like you're going through an old Rolodex card file, for those of us who still remember what that is. You do that because next you're going to pour the honey over the top of your ham, and you want some of that honey to get down in between those slices. Next, you're going to pour the pineapple juice around the sides of your crock pot, and trying not to really pour it over the ham because you don't want to wash the honey away. Once the juice is all in, then sprinkle the pineapple pieces in, including plenty on top of the ham. Once that's done, as evenly as you can, you want to top the ham and pineapple with the remaining 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Kind of pack that in if you need to kind of keep it there. After that, just put on the lid and cook on low for 3 to 4 hours, depending on the size of your ham. And that's all there is to it. That is how you make pineapple brown sugar crockpot ham. It is delicious, and I hope you guys will give it a try. If you do, let us know how it goes in the comments. All right, let's talk a little bit about Cowboy Whispering My Name. It's the story of Katie Lessing. Katie, who we met in a couple of books previous, is now a single mom. Her husband, Russell, walked out on her, leaving her with 3 young children and a mountain of debt. She's really struggling to make ends meet. It's also the story of Flynn Powers. He's the lone remaining unmarried Powers sibling. The Powers family, you may also remember from previous books in this series. But to help Katie, the Peacemakers, Sweetwater's premier quilting and amateur matchmaking club, propose a rather unconventional arrangement, a marriage of convenience. Can Katie and Flynn, longtime friends, can they make this arrangement work and find happiness, or maybe even more? Of course, you'll have to come back this Friday to find out, but for now, here is a live reading from Cowboy Whispering My Name. Hope you enjoy it, then come back this Friday for the full presentation here on Say with Jay. Flynn stood back as Mav chatted with the Peacemakers. He had never been great with small talk, and Mav was a real charmer. He didn't feel like he needed to say anything, and next to Mav, he always felt a bit stodgy. Still, he listened intently, paying attention to the conversation, even though he didn't necessarily understand why people always had such a deep fascination with the weather. But finally, Miss Charlene pulled back and glanced over at him before glancing back at Mav, including both of them in her next comments. "We want to talk to you about one of the ladies in our town." "I'm always down for talking about ladies," Mav said, humor in his voice as well as a little flirt. Charlene smiled like a schoolgirl and batted her eyes. Flynn kept from rolling his. Mav would flirt with a dead dog. "Both of you are unmarried, and this woman needs a husband, and, unfortunately, it must be quickly. She has 3 children. Her husband left her, and I understand her divorce is final. She needs a husband." Flynn felt a bit of shock in the pit of his stomach, but he couldn't deny he was also intrigued. Dating had been, for the most part, an unmitigated disaster for him. He was too serious. He didn't entertain his dates. Boring. Didn't get the idea of small talk, and never seemed to be able to figure out what exactly it was a woman wanted. "She's looking," Mav said, cracking his knuckles. "No, I'm pretty sure she never wants to get married again. But she needs the support of a husband, since she got married right out of high school and has no way to support herself." "You mean she's not interested in getting married again?" Flynn questioned. Why were they trying to find her a husband if she wasn't interested in one? "No, but I think she would get married just because it's a financial necessity." "She needs a sugar daddy. I don't think I'm old enough for that, but yeah, I'm game." Mav laughed, and one of the ladies in the back tittered. "I'm thinking this will be a marriage, as in a lifetime covenant, not just a temporary solution to her problems. So, while I suppose it could be looked upon as a sugar daddy situation, that's not what I'm thinking at all. I'm thinking real marriage, lifetime commitment." Miss Charlene, while she still had a twinkle in her eyes, crossed her arms over her chest and looked at both of them under her brows, as serious as she could be. "Does she know about this?" Flynn asked, then realized he had not asked the most important question. "Who is it?" Miss Charlene pressed her lips together. He couldn't hear it, but he was pretty sure her teeth were grinding as her jaw flexed, just slightly. "I don't want her name to leave this room, particularly if neither one of you is interested in my proposal." Agreed. Flynn didn't have a problem giving his word that he wouldn't say anything. He never blabbed stuff, especially things he wasn't supposed to be saying anyway. "I guess I'll try not to say anything. Sometimes I forget what I'm supposed to keep secret and what I'm allowed to talk about." Mav should have sounded like a jerk with that statement, but he accompanied it with a boyish grin that had all the ladies batting their eyes at him. "Try to get it in your head that you're not allowed to talk about this. Although, after you've talked to her, if she's okay with it, you can be honest about what made you go to her." "So tell us who it is. I might be interested in her anyway," Mav said easily. Charlene lifted a brow at him. Then she looked thoughtfully back over at Flynn. "I assume I was correct in thinking that both of you men are ready to get married?" Mav laughed. "That's one adventure I haven't embarked on. I suppose now is as good a time as any." Charlene nodded, although her gaze remained fixed on Flynn. He didn't give his answer right away. He supposed he'd wanted a wife for a while. At times, the longing was greater than at other times, but he'd never been able to get a girl to be interested in him long enough to propose marriage to her. Sadly, he, on the other hand, had been willing to settle for pretty much anyone, figuring that one woman was probably just about the same as any other. Although, he didn't want to have one of those high-maintenance women who needed to be coddled and handled with kid gloves. He knew he was incapable of such behavior. He could barely figure out the basics. There was no way he would be able to handle someone who was complicated. "You can take your time thinking about it if you want to, Flynn. I know this wasn't what you were expecting when you walked in today." Charlene finally broke the silence that had descended. Beside him, Mav fidgeted, shifting from one foot to the other and moving his hands, never still. Flynn noticed the difference. Next to Mav's more flamboyant personality, he was solid, steady as a rock. He worked with numbers, an accountant in his family's trucking and feed mill companies. He did the work of 3 people, and no one ever noticed or appreciated. And he never really cared. It was just work that needed to be done, and he was happy to contribute to what his family needed. Somehow, maybe in the back of his mind, he thought that maybe a wife would see what he did and appreciate it. Maybe that was just an impossible dream he had. Before he could answer, the door opened, and every head turned as Katie Lessing walked in. She paused before she closed the door, her eyes scanning the room. Surprise entered her expression as her gaze landed first on Mav, then switched to Flynn. It went back to Mav as she slowly closed the door. Then she looked at Miss Charlene. Was Katie the woman Charlene had been talking about? Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.